So just to reiterate, step 1 was to have a consistent start and stop time. Once you've figured that out, fill in the spots for your other activities such as sports, then schedule in the different types of work that you want to do throughout the day. And step 4 is to figure out the exact topics that you're going to be studying. Finally, once you're close to the exam, schedule in full past papers to really mimic the feeling of doing an exam. In this video, I'm going to give you a 5-step approach for how to schedule your revision in the run-up to your IB, A-level, or high school exams. Exam season can be really tough, and finals are even harder because every exam is so close together, so during exam season, it feels like there's no time to take a break, and this can be really stressful. Let's get into the 5-step approach. Step 1, find a consistent start and stop time. If you want to sleep at midnight, that's fine, but do it every day. Then try to wake up at 8 every day. If you want to go on a walk every morning, that's fine, but make sure to have a consistent start time for when you start working, say 10 a.m. This will help you get into the routine of working. And this is important because it builds habits. And habits are a major way to get around lack of motivation. In fact, motivation and habits are actually sort of opposing ideas. This means that if you do struggle with motivation, building habits such as starting work at the same time every day is vital in helping you keep a consistent amount of work every day and making sure that you don't procrastinate and just waste your day away. So once you have a consistent start time, let's say 9 a.m., and a consistent stop time, let's say 7 p.m., fill in your spots for other activities that aren't studying, such as things like doing sports, watching TV, playing video games, playing board games with your friends, reading, anything that works towards your physical and mental health, as these are by far the most important factors in helping you get the grades you need. I'd recommend taking at least 1 hour a day to do something that you enjoy. I'd suggest doing this maybe right after lunch, as I find that this is a period where I'm typically a bit more drowsy, and I find it a bit harder to do valuable work. I'd especially recommend scheduling in some sort of physical activity at least 2 or 3 times a week. Don't miss them, they are definitely worth going to. So once you have a start time and a stop time, and you have your different activities that you want to go to, then you can start filling in the work that you want to do. So step 3 is to schedule the different types of work that you want to do throughout the day. So you might be a morning, night, afternoon, whatever person. And my advice is to focus the part of the day that you function best to doing the work that you think will be most valuable. If you struggle to work after dinner, then don't try to do a bunch of flashcards after dinner, because these are really hard and really require your brain. And if you're not functioning that well, then there's no point in really doing them. It's more beneficial for you to just watch a TV show for an hour and take an early night and wake up the next morning and do the flashcards then. An example of this was during my first year exams at university. I had loads of memorization to do. I mean, I'm studying medicine, and I also knew that I worked best between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. This meant every morning I would sit down for about 3 hours and I would just do loads and loads of flashcards on Anki. This was really hard work. Memorizing is tough. So making sure I did this in the hours which I was most alert and most ready to actually do deep work meant I got the most out of them. Similarly, when studying for these exams, you also need to do past papers and past paper questions. Given that these are typically easier than brute force memorization, as well as being easier to be motivated for, then maybe do these between 4 and 6 p.m. where motivation typically drops a bit and it's quite hard to get any work done, and doing these right before dinner can fuel you to get them done and then go have dinner. The exact type of work that you want to do is up to you. Whether you want to do flashcards, past paper questions, draw mind maps, even rewrite your notes, although I wouldn't really recommend that. As long as you're doing active and engaging things and managing your days so that you're doing the most important things when you're most alert and leaving the easier stuff for when you're least alert, means you'll avoid overworking yourself by trying to do 10 hours of flashcards a day, as well as make sure you're integrating all types of learning into your revision so that you're as prepared as possible. Step 4 is put the topics in. You need to figure out exactly which topics you're going to be studying and when. Now, this is where tracking your progress comes in handy. You need to have a separate document, typically an Excel spreadsheet, which essentially should have a list of all the different topics that you have for your different subjects. You should then color code these for how confident you feel about them, as well as maybe put down a date for when the last time you revised this topic was. What I used to do was I used to print out question banks by topic. So I would have, for example, topic 5 in chemistry, and I would do all of the question bank questions of it and be like, okay, where am I at? What was my percentage? If I was getting 40% of the questions right, then I knew that this was a topic that I needed to work. Whereas if I was getting 90%, I would think, okay, this is a topic that I know I'm good at, so let me leave it and focus on other things which will gain me the most marks. This This will help you understand what you need to focus on most urgently in the near future. If you keep track of these topics by color coding them and noting how confident you feel about each one, then you know what subjects you need to focus on next. So for example, if you have a traffic light system, you're going to start off with mostly yellows and reds. So the idea is to get rid of all the reds and work on those until you have mainly yellows. Then you work on the yellows that you feel least confident about until eventually you're going to have mainly topics which are green and some topics which are yellow. And then you keep working on those until you feel as confident as you can up until the exam. A good way of thinking about this is, if the exam was tomorrow, what subject, what topic would I need to focus on to get the most marks out of it? Additionally, you need to figure out how to strike a balance of subjects across the day. I would not recommend trying to do 1 hour of each subject a day. This will just make you confused, your mind will be all over the place, and you won't be able to focus on one particular type of learning. For example, trying to do maths questions 1 hour, and then chemistry, and then English will just make your brain fry. I think limiting yourself to one subject a day, or maybe one subject per block of working, so you might do chemistry in the morning and then biology in the afternoon, is the way I would recommend doing it. This allows you to really get stuck into a subject and make sure your mind manages to go deep while still managing to cover and learn all of the subjects that you need to learn for your exams. When doing this color coding, you also need to take into account that you can't just learn something once and then forget about it until the exam comes around, because you're going to forget it after a while. You need to have some sort of spaced repetition. Therefore, if you keep track of what you have learned and when, then you can come back to it at a later date. This spaced repetition will really help things go into your long-term memory and ease the pressure off of the cramming that you might need to do really close to the exams. Step 5 is to schedule in full past paper questions. So this is once you get within a few weeks of exams. You need to schedule in these full past papers, 2-3 hours, however long they take. I would recommend trying to do these at the exact same time and under the same conditions that the real exam will be. So for example, if you have a 9 a.m. English exam, then you should try to do your English practices at 9 a.m. to really mimic the feeling of the exam. Also, doing things under timed pressure can be really helpful because some exams can be really quite pressurizing. And I've fallen into the trap of not doing enough exams and getting to the exam and essentially only really writing half of the questions because I just crumpled under the pressure of time. This is so valuable mentally, so you don't get to the exam hall and just freeze, because it really is a horrible experience. So just to reiterate, step 1 was to have a consistent start and stop time. Once you've figured that out, fill in the spots for your other activities such as sports, then schedule in the different types of work that you want to do throughout the day. And step 4 is to figure out the exact topics that you're going to be studying. Finally, once you're close to the exam, schedule in full past papers to really mimic the feeling of doing an exam. Finally, a bonus tip. Don't schedule too far ahead. If you take anything from this video, please take this. You should only be scheduling 3 or 4 days ahead of you. If you're scheduling 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance, this is wrong and it's going to cause you a lot of problems. The benefits of scheduling only 3 or 4 days in advance are huge. Firstly, you're able to move things around depending on whether you need to work more on something or whether you just need to take a break on one particular day. The flexibility of scheduling like this really helps reduce stress. You're able to go on more spontaneous breaks and go out for lunch with your friends without feeling like you're completely destroying your timetable and you're going to fail your exams because of it. Finally, if you schedule too far ahead, this invariably will be too ambitious and you will not be able to follow it, no matter how motivated and how dedicated you are. If you're not able to follow your schedule and not able to reach the goals you set for yourself, your sense of achievement and confidence can really take a hit, and this can kill any motivation you have. Therefore, it's important to keep it realistic, and having this flexible timetable where you only schedule a couple of days ahead is vital for this. I hope this video has been helpful. Subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.